Hey everyone, this is Mike Dot, and I'm here with my bro Afromania, and welcome back to the podcast. It's a pretty sunny day outside, and we're feeling pretty good. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Fantastic. I can't complain, man. Can't not complain. Yeah, life is good, man.
Yeah, I gotcha. So, bro, we're here today with some pretty cool news and some pretty cool stuff to talk about, like a game that I've been looking forward to making a huge comeback after it's been like on hiatus. It's been in the ground for quite some time. It's a game called Gigantic. It's a very unique hero style slash MOBA shooter. Back in the day, it wasn't super popular a game. It had a very dedicated community, but unfortunately it wasn't dedicated enough to keep the lights on for the game and for the staff. So eventually that game had to get shut down. But the rights for the game moved over to Gearbox, and now they decided that they want to bring this game back. It's actually not going to be a free-to-play live service game like it originally was. It's actually going to be a $20 game with no microtransactions, and it's just you pay once and you can just unlock everything through just playing the game, which I'm really excited for. And this is a game that Afromania has actually played a lot along with me, and we have so many fond memories of this game, and I'm just so glad that it's coming back. I'm just wondering, what do you feel about this game coming back?
It's good. It's coming back. Like I said, it's a very niche game, and it kind of ride on the coattails of the popularity of MOBAs like League of Legends and Smite that was out at the time. And no, I think it was a very unique game in terms of the art style, and I think the art style was really good. I think it, like I said, it combined those two other mobile type of games, and then it kind of figured out to make its own unique style. And I think it maybe have gotten a little, like I said, it was a very niche game within a small audience because it did kind of get lost in the sauce of games like those two. And I think it also came out around the same time when Overwatch was starting to be popular. So granted, I know these games are completely different in terms of like hero styles and all that stuff. Yeah, I think it kind of got a little bit lost in that whole big area of games. No, but I think it's cool that Gigantic is getting a second wind. Like I said, I don't think they're looking to make, like I said, it's not going to be a live service game. I think they just want to give that, maybe this game out to the fans, maybe to the nudge audience that really did love this game, just so they could sit down and play. I don't think, did they mention anything about like dedicated servers, right? Will be taken care of. How is this going to be handled?
Well, I think that it's going to be it's still going to have like servers hosted by Gearbox. I don't think there's going to be any word of the game
like the community take it over and be able to host like their own stuff.
I don't think so. That would be cool if they would do that, because
unlikely though.
It's very unlikely. Some games have done that in the past for games that are no longer in service. Another game that I used to play that was also a live service game was a game called Dirty Bomb. It was a game that was made by Splash Damage, the people who are known for...
Also played that.
Yeah, the people who are known for games like Brink, Wolfenstein, Enemy Territory, and those kind of games. They actually decided, instead of just shutting the servers down, we're just going to turn this game over to the community. Everything is unlocked. You can just play on community servers, and the game is just basically out there for you to play whenever you want. And I wish more games would actually do that. And basically Gigantic getting revived is kind of like that, except that the servers are being hosted by Gearbox.
Do you feel that was Gearbox, getting the rights to this IP, and maybe giving this game out in its $20 form, which everything is basically going to be locked for the players? Do you feel like this may be a testing ground of a revival of maybe we'll make another Gigantic sequel, and then that version will be will move live down the world if this game gets a decent word of mouth, or you just simply say, here's something, this is a good enough IP, but we just want to give a present out to the fans. I mean, I'm hoping that it's the latter, but you tell me.
Well, it could be, but then again, they've already stated, I think in their Discord, that the current game isn't going to get much like development. Apparently, it's going to have like minimal to no development, probably just going to be like quality of life updates and maybe some tweaks here and there. Maybe implement some content that's been sitting in the game files for quite some time, because they have data mined the game saying that certain characters from the original free-to-play version of Gigantic were data mined to be playable in some form or fashion. So they might do that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they're probably, you'll get kind of the what Gigantic was supposed to be back in the day. You'll get the full version of it. However, the hope is that with enough people hopefully build an interest of this game, it might spark them to make a sequel, and then that game will end up becoming more of a live service if it gets popular.
Yeah, they're probably using this as a test bed to see how much do people really want this game back. And obviously putting it for just $20 it's
a safe bet.
It's a safe bet.
If it doesn't work out,
then you just like it's there. It's
yeah.
there. It's for the community. And I think it's a good gesture regardless, even if they have grander ideas to see if it turns into a moneymaker or not. But if it doesn't, at least it's out there for the fans.
Agree.
I'm glad to hear that. But basically on that topic, it's just interesting to see a game like this come back from the dead. And it makes me wonder, what other games do you think would be great for like a revival?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of games I would love to see come back and make a second win right now. One of those games, I don't know, I was really big on Final Fight growing up as a kid. I know that like Final Fight has now been kind of like mirrored into the Street Fighter universe, but there was a time where I really enjoyed beating 'em ups growing up as a kid, and Final Fight 2 was clearly one of my favorite games growing up, and I loved those type of games when I was young. Days of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Double Dragon, and yeah, I thought that was really, really dope. I would have totally loved that. So those are the type of the games I would have liked to see a revival. Get a second wind at life with better graphics, maybe better storylines, maybe better moves and stuff like that. I think it would be totally awesome to have that game that I personally would like to come back on that realm.
Now that I'm just swapping through a few things here and there and just got some ideas buzzing in my mind, it just brought up the mindset. A game that I used to love and that needs to get a revival is one of EA's older titles from the EA Sports Big lineup, SSX. The SSX series absolutely needs a revival. That's just like one of my favorite snowboarding games of all time. My specific favorite one being SSX 3. That's basically the one that got me into the series. And then I went back and actually played the older games because I loved SSX 3 so much. Played SSX 1. I liked SSX Tricky as well. I know.
Which was the popular one.
That was the popular one. That was the one that everyone says is the best. And yeah, SSX Tricky is basically just SSX 1 but crazier, so I can understand why people like that one the most. But yeah, SSX 3 was my personal favorite because you had the one big ass mountain and you had 3 peaks and you just go down the whole mountain peak and it's just like one seamless experience. Like doing the top mountain peak was probably the coolest thing about the game because it's actually a full 30-minute venture to the bottom, and it's just, you can pick so many different paths and choose your way to get down the mountain. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, I think XXX was at its peak. I think it was one of the better games after its peak. Now, they did come with a revival years afterwards.
Yeah.
But
SSX
maybe not in the same. It wasn't really the same. It wasn't a bad game, and I do respect that they added a couple new ideas to it. You know, in terms of mountains, but it did miss some of its charm, its personality, which really what made SSX games quite fun. That being said, since you're going that route with the EA Sports Big, I would like to see another genre of their games come back. NBA Street.
Oh,
I was a big fan of NBA Street.
right.
I think it would be totally good. I'm shocked that EA hasn't really dived into NBA Street form. You would think in today's world with characters, with today's players, and unfortunately it would be like a shitty live service by the hands of EA if they decided to do it, though, unfortunately. But no, I mean, the fact to have like at least an NBA Street, in terms of the fact that I know that Street, you know, the back of the days in the early 2000s, and one, remember the N1's basketball tournament, street ball tournament, really kind of started the whole craze, and then EA had to jump on it on the money train. It's like, hey, let's take N1 but actually have the NBA license to it. So I would totally love to see a little bit of a live service to that. I think that would be pretty dope. You know, with today's early player, with today's modern players be able make a comeback. So I would totally like that.
That'd be pretty cool. But I think what made NBA Street so cool was because it was more like stylish and fanatical, and it was just completely over the top. That's why NBA Street Volume 2 was the most popular in the series, because a lot of the characters, the most popular characters in the game, weren't actually NBA players. There were actually all these like made up characters for the game, like Slick. I think Slick was the main character. The tall guy with the afro.
Wasn't that an NBA 1?
He was
Volume
in NBA,
1?
He was in NBA 1, but he came back in Volume 2.
Was he an unlocked character?
I think he was one of the default characters, actually.
Maybe.
Slick, yeah. I think he does.
Well, yeah, I think you started out with default characters, and then you later on you unlocked NBA Legends, the current players at that time, and then the Legends that came out. And now I thought it was it was just fun arcadey style game that meshed both places, and it was uniquely fun, which is, you know, an incredible game. I think I would love to see the EA Sports Big bring a revival to that.
The funny thing about that, now remembering it with the game that came after it, NBA Street Volume 3, this was a weird era of gaming, especially with EA, where they had to put the quote-unquote the trick stick era of video games.
Yeah.
Do you remember that with NBA Street Volume 3, where they had the trick stick to flick the trick in the different directions?
It was very gimmicky.
It was super
sometimes
gimmicky.
it didn't work the way that it should have.
And then they did the same thing. It's going back on SSX. They did the same thing with SSX on tour, where they had the trick stick thing. And while it was nice and all, it was kind of annoying because their trick stick was also your manual stick. So having to flip between tricks and master tricks and manuals was super annoying, and it was just like, I don't know why. Just let me use the shoulder buttons again.
Since we're going down this road, another EA game I would love to see a revival. You think you know it's...
You know what? I know what you're talking about.
Def Jam.
Def Jam.
Def Jam.
Okay, now that is a
Def
game
Jam.
that I
would love to have Def Jam back, because you have to remember, I think Def Jam was supposed to be the engine was originally supposed to be made for WWE. I think it was supposed to be a WWE wrestling game. I forget the studio that worked on it. They worked on a bunch of wrestling games, and they were known as the premier wrestling game. It wasn't Utes, right?
I forget. In fact, I need to just look that up. You could just keep talking while looking this up.
Yeah, but I do remember that originally WWE brought when you ever find the name of the company, was brought to WWE to make a wrestling game, and I think simply WWE went a complete different direction for the wrestling titles.
Aki.
But
Aki
was it
Corp.
Aki?
It's
Okay.
Aki. They were known
Okay.
for their wrestling game. Sorry.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Aki, I think, brought the engine to them. I think they were not interested, and then they later on went over to EA, which went into a really crazy idea. Let's take a wrestling engine and put popular hip hop stars back in that era from Def Jam, from the Def Jam era into that and make it into a fighting game.
And they turned it into like a quote unquote boxing game because they gave it to which studio did they give it to?
Are you talking about EA Chicago?
Yeah, it was EA Chicago.
I don't think so.
Was it Chicago?
No. I think that was a completely I think that was completely different. I think you're mixing developers up.
Because
Did you think about the Fight Night developing team? That was EA Chicago.
Okay, because I was thinking you were talking about the third game in the entry.
No, not Icon. No, not Icon. You're thinking Icon. You're thinking Icon. That this is when EA started to become stupid. They took away a really good franchise after Vendetta and Fight for New York, and they decided to give it to Icon, and they gave it to the company of EA Chicago. That was making the Fight Night series at that time, and then unfortunately now EA Chicago's I don't think exists anymore, unfortunately. And then they took over and they decided to make this weird wacky game where you're talking about the stupid fight stick mechanic. That was dumb. Now I'm talking about just straight up wrestling style beating up game. Like the first one was more wrestling. The second one became more of a fighting game. Like it still had more wrestling mechanics. And going back to what you're saying about the EA Sports Big titles, I think this is when they dropped the EA Sports Big, and it just became
EA Sports.
Challenge everything. This is when it became more the fantastical, crazy super moves that were added. I enjoyed the blazing move. The creativity out of it all was amazing, and I also loved how much the developers worked along with the rappers at that time. Like the rappers were very involved in what their super moves wanted to be back in the day. I think there were a couple of old videos. I remember an old video of DMX and how he wanted his moves wanted to be done and stuff, and how excited he was and how everybody was. Actually, like even back in the day, I think even BET, when BET was actually good, actually hosted an actual
a showcase.
A showcase.
Yeah, I remember that showcase because it was Elephant Man was there.
Yeah.
Elephant Man was showcasing the game, and he was talking about how awesome he is in the game and his special moves that I designed personally, and it's called the Good to Go.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that. It was
nobody understood Elephant Man.
Nobody understood Sean Paul either.
Yeah, those were the two ones. No, I think Sean Paul was the worst. Nobody understood what Sean Paul
was thick. It was super thick.
Yeah, very, very thick though. But again, it came with not only were they cool, the rappers that were cool in the game, but even the made-up characters were also dope too. Yeah, there were some really cool ones.
Was Pockets.
Yeah, Pockets
was my favorite.
I forgot the other one. There was another
House.
one.
It was House was in there.
I forgot the breakdancer. The one who wore the
Danji.
Danji was pretty dope. And then they introduced the legendary Crazy Legs from the Rocksteady crew. Who just topped them after that.
Yeah, basically.
I just love that. See, this was where a time where games felt very creative and very expressive and did cool shit. Yeah, you just wanted to do cool shit.
Yeah, exactly. And then it just got so much creative stuff and allowed the people that they were working with, all the rappers and celebrities, to be creative as well.
Correct.
Like Flavor Flav. I'm not big into Flavor Flav, but the fact that he made his fighting style drunken boxing, drunken kung fu. Yeah. I kind of have a lot of respect for. Yeah. Because it just looked so goofy, but it was actually pretty awesome.
And it kind of fit his style too. It fit their personalities. I love that everybody it was a great collective of that. I mean, I don't, again, where EA is at the moment, I don't think we'll ever get that revival, but I would, and it just be a nightmare trying to get a hold of all the contracts and how music works in the industry. I wouldn't even know about that.
Yeah, it's a lightning in a bottle situation. Sadly, a game like Def Jam Fight for New York is never gonna happen.
It's sad.
Again in this day and age because there's too much red tape.
Yeah, unfortunately though. But you never know. You never know. Maybe EA figures out, hey, maybe we crack the wallet, maybe we get the lawyers on it, and maybe we make it try to happen. Because it's been, I feel like it's one of those titles that's like,
it's beloved.
It was very beloved.
It had probably one of the
one of the weirdest gimmicks out there.
Yeah, and it had actually a very decent story mode.
Yeah.
Like probably one of the best story modes in a single player fighting game ever.
It was really good.
I mean, at least it was for us back then, back in the day, especially
for story mode for what it was.
For what it was, just getting immersed in taking down all the clubs and controlling them.
Yeah.
And having to fight against Snoop Dogg. It's just like,
yeah.
I mean, well, his character was called Crow.
Yeah.
His character was called Crow. And he had like Busta Rhymes was magic.
And then Fat Joe was crack. Which arguably is one of the toughest players to play against in the game, for what people have said. Yeah, crack. I remember playing against Fat Joe's character.
And even some of the characters played their roles like really well. Like Sticky Fingers really got really into his role.
Yeah, he did.
He really did. He was really good.
No, yeah, I totally remember that. No, I think it's totally, no, if you really are talking about revivals, I would love to definitely see if EA ever had the stones to ever make a big revival. You know what, since we're going on that, a certain company, Sega, decided, hey, we're going to try to bring some revivals back too. So I think already one that's already kind of in the work. So they've already mentioned a couple of games that are in the process, that I think one game that kind of definitely needs, personally, a revival in my eyes, a new Virtual Fighter would be nice.
Yep, it would be. I think it's in the pipeline right now. It's
simmering right now.
It's simmering because they did release a remake. It's a complete engine remake of Virtual Fighter 5 called. Yeah. It was a remake of Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown, and now it's Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown.
Yeah,
it's actually a completely different engine. I think it's the same engine that powers the Yakuza games. Oh, so they remade it on that. It doesn't have all the content that was available in Final Showdown, but it's out there, and it has like an improved netcode and some improved visuals in here and there. So yeah, they kind of just made that, put it out, and probably did that as a way to gauge, like, player feedback and whatnot. So I do think that they do want to bring the series back. I think they do really want to break a Virtua Fighter 6, but the fans really got demanded.
Yeah, no, just like everything else. Yeah, unfortunately, you have to vote with your wallets. Is there any other games that you want to talk about in terms of revivals?
Well,
there's a couple out there.
I mean, speaking on Sega, obviously they did the whole showcase during the Game Awards with a bunch of games that they want to bring back, including Jet Set Radio. What is the other game? Streets of Rage, Crazy Taxi, Golden Axe, and Shinobi. All great games that definitely could use a revival. But here's the thing. These revivals, I'm a little bit skeptical on. Because a few years back, there was word that Sega did want to revive the games, but they were labeled the Super Game Project or something like that. And they specifically mentioned that they wanted to chase the Fortnite audience with their games. And when I hear that, my mind immediately goes to microtransactions, live service game, and I'm not sure how you're gonna turn a game like Crazy Taxi or Jet Set Radio into a live service game, and I don't think that will do well. But those were the two games that were mentioned in those new articles many years back, or I think it was just only 1 year back. And that's why I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't think they're going with that right now, but I'm cautious right now.
I can see some titles that can make that transition. Like, clearly, out of all the titles you mentioned, Jet Set Radio makes the most sense if you want to make that live service transaction. You could make that like
an online game.
Yeah, it like you said, if they're saying the Fortnite style community, that is a game where you can really now expand the world into it, and then it's not more just a game now. It's more like a lifestyle community in terms of, it's still game, but now we do other things. We can host, like, it becomes live service events, like more concerts. Like social, more social events. So I could see that franchise going that route. I'm not saying that will make a lot of people. It's not going to make a lot of people happy. Yeah. But if it's one of the out of the games, that's the game that I would experiment with it, and that probably would be one of the games that would not make people happy. Knowing that's what's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to work out well if they turn Jet Set Radio into a live service game. But
you know what game that needs to come back?
What?
Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
Why?
That game definitely needs a revival. Billy.
No, I don't think you even played that game.
No, I didn't play. I would love to see Billy come back. I think it's a cool character.
I mean,
you don't think so?
Not really.
I didn't play it.
I mean,
I'm just saying shit. I didn't play
it. No. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who absolutely love Billy.
Yeah, don't
Hatcher.
hate the Billy and the Giant Egg fans out there.
I've never played it. I've never had an interest in it.
See, I got you guys back.
I mean, the design looked cool. I think the design of Billy Hatcher was the same artist who
made Sonic, right?
Yes,
yeah,
made Sonic.
Same Sonic team, and that probably had a unique style of gameplay.
I mean,
big old chicken.
Yeah, before the creator, I think the creator of Sonic is in jail now.
Oh yeah.
I think for embezzlement. I'm not too sure.
I heard about it, but I don't know any more information on that.
I'm saying a little bit too much. I'm probably getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, that might be for another podcast for a different time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone will correct me in the comment section about the creator of Sonic going to jail.
Okay, so let's switch from one Japanese company to another Japanese company. So I heard in terms of revivals, Capcom a couple of days ago put out something very interesting. I believe it was a survey. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like the Capcom 10 survey or something like that.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, something about that, and it was pretty. I wouldn't say it was in depth, but it is very kind of unique for them to release that out of nowhere. Well, it can't be out of nowhere, maybe, because it's a certain.
It's very deliberate.
It's very deliberate. Of course, it's very deliberate, though. But it was very interesting that they would release a survey out to the public on how people felt about the company at the moment, and as well as certain ideas and titles that people might want to see be revived and come back.
Yep. I mean, I filled out the survey. It was fairly short, only 10 questions, but it did ask some very biting questions that a lot of people want to know. It's like, what Capcom game do you like the most? What Capcom game influenced your taste in video games? How do you feel about Capcom as a company? What do you think Capcom should do in the future? What game would you like to see revived, and this and that? And obviously they put this out because they want to know very much from their customer base and their fan base, what should we do next? And I do think that it's a good idea that they put out this survey, because this could potentially shape what Capcom does in the future with their new releases and their old releases.
Do you feel like surveys work?
It depends. It really depends on the company, because they obviously put them out for a reason. They obviously want feedback, but it can be just to like, gauge and show like shareholders what what direction they should go in.
Yeah. It's a little weird for Capcom because I feel like when it comes to especially for the titles that I want, they always tend to go the route of, oh, let's do collection editions and let's gather all our old IPs together and we'll bundle them up into one big collector's edition. And I feel like again, for the games that I want, it's mostly going to be leaning towards the fighting community side, but you'll always see these big fighting game collections and it doesn't seem like it makes a lot of money or headway. And because we feel like, hey, vote with your money, vote for your money. If you want the company to make this, do it. And they do it. And it seems like nothing really, we don't get like a new project in any of the old games that we want, especially when we buy these collections. So Capcom is, it is one of the companies that I kind of on when it comes to a server. And when they come out with these surveys, yeah, because it's just like, I don't think anything goes, either nothing comes out of it or we just get another big collection.
That is true. I mean, for instance, people have been asking for a new like Darkstalkers game for years. For years, people have been asking for it. I mean, I remember back when we were at the New York Comic-Con. Do you remember when we were back at New York Comic-Con when they were showcasing Street Fighter Cross Tekken, sorry. And they, before the whole showcase happened, they asked people about Darkstalkers.
Yeah.
They asked people about Darkstalkers and they asked everybody to put their money, like a $10, a $5 or a $1 bill in the air and show everybody how much you want this game. And like, yeah. And
what a farce.
It was a farce because they're still like on the fence about Darkstalkers. I mean, they put out a collection with the Capcom fighting game collection that includes all the Darkstalkers games, which is a good start, but obviously we want a new one because and speaking of Darkstalkers, the reason why so many people want a new Darkstalkers game is because basically it was Capcom's answer to Mortal Kombat. It was basically Capcom's Mortal Kombat game, and it was fairly gory, especially the arcade versions, because you had like characters getting chopped up, you had characters getting like stabbed and bloody, and like, yeah, it was actually, obviously it wasn't like as violent as Mortal Kombat, but it was gory.
I don't think
violent.
It was the answer to Mortal Kombat. I think it was like the horror version of Street Fighter. If horror and Street Fighter kind of came together, I think you had Darkstalkers. I don't think it was them competing with Mortal Kombat. I think Street Fighter did that pretty well. I think it's just like, hey, Street Fighter was really good. Is there any way we can somehow make another version of Street Fighter? And I feel like Darkstalkers was just like, hey, let's make more versions of this. Well, and then later down the road, then we started to get the cross-ups, and then let's get X-Men and stuff like that. No, but no, I do feel like there are some famous characters. I think there were some great characters to come from the Darkstalkers series.
And QB, Morgan and Lilith. Yeah, obviously it was based off of like horror stories and like myth and legend, and just like you got like obviously Frankenstein's monster, the mummy,
vampires,
werewolf, like monster bees,
a lot of fables and mystical creatures and legends and stuff like that.
Yeah, but still, I think two things can be true at once. That it was Capcom expanding their repertoire of fighting games based on the success of Street Fighter. But I do think it came out at the same time as Mortal Kombat and was trying to pull that mature market, I would say.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I would totally see that.
I would say that as much. Again, obviously, Darkstalkers wasn't as violent or as gory as Mortal Kombat, but it was still violent enough that obviously it's not a game.
It had that that anime style of violence you know, that dark anime style of it, which was, like you said, it was cool and mature back at the time when it got released.
Yeah, but and
You know, that vampire, I think like Vampire Hunter D, like that style of dark, creepy, hardcore horror, Japanese violence.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people still have a lot of fondness for Darkstalkers game. Even people in the staff and people who work at Capcom in the lower levels have a lot of love for Darkstalkers. Biggest example being Jeddah, the final boss of Vampire Savior. I forget who it was, but somebody at Capcom pushed very hard to get Jeddah into Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Obviously, it wasn't the most popular Marvel vs. Capcom game, but somebody at the development staff pushed really hard to get Jeddah in the game.
Yeah.
And they also pushed really hard to have him as violent, as gory as he was in the original game.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to tone him down so much. And they said, no, he has to be as violent, as creepy as it used to be, or as the fans won't accept it.
Yeah, no, you definitely can see there's love for Darkstalkers in that company, like, and I feel like there are people that would love to make it, but again, it's always the suits, if it has to make sense money wise, unfortunately, which stinks, and again, which is why you question the validity of a lot of these surveys, though. But that also being said, in terms of these surveys, in terms, what other Capcom games do you think you would love to see revival from?
Power Stone.
Yeah.
Power Stone 1 and Power Stone 3 I think needs to happen at this point, because like as much as I love 2, I didn't really like 1 that much because it was 1v1 and the combat wasn't that great. Power Stone 2 was a much better experience because it was more of a party game, was 4-player, and it was more chaotic.
Yeah.
And you had the items, all sorts of different items that you could use. And in the in the console version of the game, in fact, even in the arcade version of the game, if you played the arcade cabinet enough times, it would unlock more items you could play with. In fact, a lot of Capcom games in the past, they did this, especially with biggest example being Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Specific arcade cabinets would level up the more people play it. Eventually, if the arcade cabinet gets leveled up enough, more and more characters would be unlocked. So back in the day, if you were a kid or a teenager playing these arcade games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 back in the day, not having access to the internet and all this time, if you would go back to this arcade cabinet and you would just replay the game, you would see these new characters show up. Like, what the heck is this? Holy crap! Who is this character?
Yeah.
And they added a special like level of like wonder. Like, if I keep playing, who's gonna be next in this roster?
It definitely made you want to come back to the place because you didn't know, oh, who's this new character that I can sit down and play with? Yeah. It was their take of adding replay value to the cabinets right now, because they want people to put in their coins. Yeah, I totally did remember that, especially with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where it's like there were a lot of unlocked characters. The more you played, more new characters got unlocked every time you sat down and played it.
The only weird thing about it is that like some of the characters were a little bit redundant. Like,
oh yeah,
like there was like, there's 2 Wolverines.
Oh yeah,
there's 2 Wolverines in the roster, which is super weird.
Yeah.
I forget the differences between them.
One had like longer claws, I believe.
Yeah, one of them had longer claws, but like their movesets were a little bit altered.
Yeah.
It was super weird.
Yeah, I know. It happens though, but still very cool. I thought it was really cool. No, like I said, Power Stone definitely feels like a game that needs to get a glow up. It's a very loving game. Very niche following. Another game that I would love, then I think needs, again, in terms of fighting games, Rival Schools.
Yep.
I always feel like that's a game that also needs to kind of get a glow up. I always felt that with Capcom, I'm just really shocked they never went the way of MCU and just did like a Street Fighter universe collab in that route. Like Rival Schools can have its own storyline that complements whatever Street Fighter is doing right now, because because I mean they've already admitted in the comic books they established in the comic in the yeah, like I said,
it's in the games now as well.
Yeah,
it's in the games like Street Fighter 6, the biggest Final Fight, Street Fighter, and Rival Schools are all in the same universe.
Yes,
are all in the same universe.
Yeah, and I thought, like, again, going back when, you know, when Marvel was good, like they could took up a little bit of a playbook from that, and you know, we could make, not only could we make a new Rival Schools game that focuses just on, like, you know, puberty, but people beating each other up and high school conspiracies and stuff like that in terms of the fighting game, in terms of the mechanics and stuff like that. But like you said, you could also have like a new Final Fight series that deals with Metro City, while you have whatever news that's happening with like what's happening with the Street Fighter World Tournament. I thought they could have played around with that universe altogether and have different multi-stories that figure a way to tie into each other. I thought they had that in the bag. But yeah, Rival Schools was the type of game I would totally love to see it. I think they had a cool mechanic in terms of like the super jump and all that stuff, and that's a cool mechanics. And
obviously,
stuff like
there's a lot of cool mechanics with that, but even Rival Schools on its own could still be a very unique experience, because here's the thing: like Japanese high school sims are actually kind of popular. At least that setting is very popular. When you got games like Persona 4, 5, and recently Persona 3.
Yeah,
people love the high school setting, so why not have a Rival Schools game where you not just fight, you have a fighting game added to it, but you have a single player story where you go to high school, you do your homeworks, you flirt with girls, get beat up by the girls, you beat up the bullies, and you suplex the principal.
Yeah, that sounds fun. That totally sounds fun. And again, I'm not used. This is new to me, but yeah, no, I think there's a way to evolve it, but at the same time, also try to keep it its roots as a fighting game. I think that's important too. But if there is room to evolve that, like you know, like you see like where Street Fighter, and like I said, they have a blueprint for that Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, with the world tour. So you're just basically bringing that down to more of a small level for Rival Schools, though. But I think it's there. I think there's a grand possibility for that. You know, I think that would be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to be able to sell Revival and bring back that type of game, I think it's right there. I definitely love to see a Rival Schools remake. I know they did Project Justice too, which expanded the core of the.
That was on like the Dreamcast.
Yeah,
Dreamcast era. It was like 3v3 like tag. I honestly actually have never played it, because what I played was the official Rival Schools 2, which was Japan only. Yeah. And that's what I got to play, which was more or less the same as Rival Schools 1, but with more characters. Yeah. But yeah, I never got to play Project Justice. I really should at some point. That was because that's technically Rival Schools 3. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, make a Rival Schools game where you go to school, you beat up you hit on girls, you get beat up by the girls, you beat up the bullies, you get the bullies to join up with you, you fight the principal, and then you flunk out.
There you go. There you go. Then you become a high school delinquent. Yep.
I think that would be perfect.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that's enough for this podcast. Like we talked so much. It was a lot of cool stuff happening right now, man. A lot of good ideas, a lot of hope for these game companies, and when these revivals, I hope that a lot of your favorite games get revivaled. Whoever's watching this right now. What games do you think need a revival? Let us know in the comments.
And before you say that, yeah, man, I'm pumped for that. So till then, we'll see you guys later.
Yep, this is Mike Dot and with Afromania, and we are saying peace.
Goodbye.